Well, hey folks, I'm Josh. Welcome back to the shop. Today, we're gonna try making a smokeless tabletop fire pit thing. You've probably seen them if you're active on social media or online. There's ads for them all over the place. Um, I have like an outdoor smokeless fire pit, big that sits on the ground kind of thing. But I've seen little ones that just like sit on a tabletop, and I'm like, oh, those are cool, but I can't justify the price. And I'm like, could I make one? So the concept is really pretty simple. I think maybe there's some little finessing, fine details that probably make a really good one and a mediocre one. That's probably what makes the difference. But we're gonna see what we can do here. So I have a couple things I'm gonna work with, and I've been kind of poking around and seeing what I got laying around. This is a paint can, not anything crazy, just a typical paint can. And this is a tin that had popcorn in it. If you ever buy popcorn from the Boy Scouts, that's what this was. So the way the smokeless fire wings work is there's an outside chamber and then there's an inside chamber. And the inside chamber, so if this is our inside chamber and let's say it's sitting down in there, we pull it out. Typically, the bottom has a bunch of holes in it for airflow to go up into the fire, which is built obviously in the bottom of here. And then there's a primary fire combustion down in there. And then because this is sitting inside this chamber and there's airspace along the outside and there's holes drilled in along the bottom of this, air goes from the outside of this can in to the inside, and then it can either go up into the fire in the bottom of this, or it can come around the outside, and then there's more holes drilled along the top edge of this that pushes the superheated air, because it's been traveling along this, into the fire again, and you get a secondary combustion, and that's what actually burns up all the smoke. Any of the little particles and stuff in the smoke as it's coming up out of the fire that are still combustible gets burned again because of that secondary combustion along the top edge. So there's got to be some kind of finessing to where the holes are, the space between the walls and all that, but I don't know. We're gonna see what happens. So this tin, this popcorn tin, happens to be just a scotch too big to fit down in my paint can. We're gonna see if we can pry this out just enough to sneak this down in there. And I want to then push this ring back in and have it hopefully rest in this edge right here, this little lip. And then I can drill holes along this edge right here for the secondary combustion. And I'll have to drill a whole bunch of holes in the bottom of this to allow the air to go up into the fire. And I'll have to also drill holes into the bottom of here that allow for the air to get into the fire to start with. So that's where we're going with this. I have no idea if it's going to work, but we're going to find out. So the first thing to do, I think, is to see if I can get this started big enough to fit this down in there, because if that's not going to work, I got to do something totally different. All right, so what if we give it just a little persuasion with the hammer here? We're just going to give it little taps. Whoa! That's going to work. All right, so I think we'll be able to get that down in there. But once we get it in, I probably won't be able to get it out. So I'm not going to put it in there right now. Right now, we're going to start drilling some holes. All right, so I've got some painter's tape here. We know exactly how big the circumference of the outside of the can is, and we can mark the tape so that we know where to put our holes, so we can have, nice evenly spaced holes. I'm just going to put a mark every inch or so. I could be a little more precise probably, but I'm not too concerned. All right, so I'm gonna use a 3/8 inch drill bit to drill the holes. And I want I think I'm gonna do 2 holes, I've decided. I'm gonna do one at about that height and one just a little bit higher up, probably right along the top edge of the tape. So I do need to put a mark for consistency's sake right here all the way around. Except my marker's dried up. Now for a little tapping. All right, so I've got all the holes punched there, and I think I'm going to take the tape off. So I don't really need that anymore. And then I'm gonna drill that out with a 5/16 cobalt drill bit. I don't know that you would need to use a cobalt. You might be fine with just like a black oxide, but I don't know. I figure you're drilling metal, you might as well use cobalt if you got it. And I'm just gonna do it with my hand drill. I guess you could use a drill press if you wanted to, but I mean, I don't know. I think this will be faster. So the holes are a little jagged and have some burrs, of course, as you would expect. So I'm actually going to go around with my Dremel, this little grinder bit attachment, and just try to smooth those holes out a little. There's probably 1,000 ways to do this, but this is how I'm going to do it. Don't forget your safety equipment, and here we go. So the Dremel works pretty well. Now I just got a little deburring tool here that I'm going around and hitting a couple of the bad spots. This is probably overkill, but I don't know, it makes me feel better. Got these holes all cleaned up pretty well. Now it is time to move on to the can that's going to go inside, and I got to drill a couple different things here. I got to drill a bunch of holes in the bottom so that the air can go in through these holes and then up through there. And then I also have to drill a ring of holes right around this upper edge. So I guess I'll start with the bottom. And I guess I could just go all willy-nilly, but I think I'm going to try to be, I don't know, make some kind of a pattern out of it. You kind of want to walk the balance here of making it too holy that it won't hold sticks, and not holy enough that it doesn't get enough airflow. All right, let's drill, see what that looks like. These outer ones, I think I'm going to do the same 5/16 bit, and then probably for this inner ring, I'm probably going to do a smaller bit. I've got all the holes drilled in the bottom, and I went around with the burr remover and circled all the little holes, and it's pretty good from this side. And I realize this will be sitting in there, and there's some edges down in there that you wouldn't want to run your finger along probably, but I don't imagine that I'll be reaching inside around the bottom much without a glove on anyway. I'll just have to remember that. So, I mean, I probably could get in there with the Dremel and clean those up even more, but I don't know that it's actually really necessary. So next step, we're going to put the holes around this top rim, and if I can get this to work the way I want, this lip of the can is going to rest in here. And so my ring of holes around the top is going to be right below that line, I think. Maybe just a little bit down, like right about there. Because I'm thinking by the time it gets, it's going to, the air is going to circulate up along there and then come out right here and shoot into the flame. So I'm going to mark them out the same way I did the bottom of this one with some masking tape. All right, so I've got marks at the 1/2 inch points all the way around. And as far as how deep I'm going to put the holes down, I'm going to try to make the holes line up so that when this is in there, the like kind of halfway point on the hole is about even with this bottom edge. With this bottom edge right here. Because I think that'll help with the airflow. Because this is going to kind of, this upper lip right here is going to kind of angle up a little bit. And so it's going to kind of help direct the air. I don't know. We're just kind of guessing. So best measurement I can take puts me at about this height. So I'm just going to try to kind of scribe a line all the way along this edge at that height. So I've got an idea of where to punch my holes. All right, so hopefully the heater in the background isn't too loud, but this is my setup for punching these holes that are going to, you know, be used to pre-drill. This is just an old post out of a coffee table that I snagged all the wood from, that I clamped up in a vise that is clamped up in my other vise. This is an interest tip. But anyway, what that does is it gives me support behind this as I tap it. Otherwise, it just deforms this thin metal. I got a 1/4 inch bit in there that I'm going to use to drill 1/4 inch holes every 1/2 inch around the top edge, and I'm going to keep using this as support. I'm just going to go around and try to clean up these holes a little bit, probably on the inside, because this edge will be closed up inside there, so it's not super important. So I'm going to try to clean these up from here. Well, now it's time to try to fit this together. So my hope is that I can get this down into there, and then I'll have to go around and kind of, with a hammer and probably some kind of, I don't know, punch or something, kind of push that edge back in and hopefully make that seal as tight as I can around here so that air doesn't get in too much or come out too much. So now you can see it's kind of sitting in the right spot. It's got a little room to move, but now begins the slow, tedious process of just going around and tapping that inner rim into place.
All right, now I'm going to use my paint can opener here and see if I can get a little more leverage to just kind of slowly press this in around the edges. All right, I think it's in there. It's probably not completely airtight along this edge, and there might be a product or something that I could have like sandwiched in there before I pinched that all down that would have ensured it being completely airtight, but I don't know. I didn't want to invest any money in this that I didn't have to, because I didn't really know how successful it was going to be, but so far it's looking like it's going to work. I'm not sure how useful the hammer and punch really were for persuading things over. Really, the best luck I had was using the paint can opener by just putting this in and pushing that edge up so that it kind of pushed it up a little bit, and then I just put it in at this angle and mashed that edge back over, and it kind of rolled the edge right into that little divot that was there. So it's in there pretty good now. I think it's time for a test run. Well, I got the fire going pretty well now, and you can see I'm getting a pretty good secondary burn. If you look right along the holes there, there's like rolling flames coming out of those little holes, and that means that the secondary burn is happening, and there's not a lot of smoke. It's real clean burning. It helps that the wood that I'm using is really dry. It was a bunch of sticks and stuff that I had in my shop from a previous project. I'm getting a nice clean fire. It actually is working really well, and just out of interest, I'm gonna take some temperature measurements, and we're gonna see if we can see how hot things are. I have just a infrared thermometer here that we're gonna use to take some measurements on this. So if you see, I mean, obviously inside it's gonna be blazing hot. So there's a little red dot. It's on the inside in there. It says OH, which means that it's too hot for this thing to measure, which this will go up to 1022 degrees Fahrenheit. But on the outside of the can, if you measure right at the top lip there, she's getting, oops, right around 700 degrees. If we come down a little bit to 300 degrees, right about there. If we scoot down to the bottom of the container, about 200 degrees Fahrenheit down there. It's about 37 degrees outside today. So let's see. I'm curious how hot it is under the fire. I have it sitting on this patio paver here. We'll take a measurement below the fire after I move it off to the side to see if that patio paver is getting hot. And I have a feeling that we're going to need some kind of base underneath this at all times. I don't think you could set it safely on like a tabletop or something. I bet you'd start a fire. All right, so if we look right in the middle, right underneath the thing, it's about 100, a little over 100, about 120 degrees right there. Which, I mean, this is not dead on accurate, but it's close enough to give us an idea, which means it's definitely getting hot there. And that paver was wet when I brought it over, and it's starting to dry out right there. So it's definitely getting warm underneath there. So I either need to build something to set this on or always use it on a paver or something like that. But, I mean, look at that. That's working. Getting my double combustion and everything. Thanks for watching. Hope this was useful or at least moderately enjoyable. And like, subscribe, leave a comment, let me know what you think. Thanks a bunch. Have a good one.